What if there was a podcast where one NFL legend talked about football? What about two NFL legends?
This is Wideout's World,
where the gridiron comes alive. NFL legends Irving Fryar and Michael Timpson, breaking down the game from the ultimate insider perspective. Game recaps, upcoming previews, and exclusive analysis straight from the minds of those who've been in the trenches. Wideout's World. Let's do it.
Are you ready for some football?
We're ready for some football, baby.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Wideout's World. I'm your host, Michael Timpson, and you see that spot over there. That is my partner in crime, Irving D. Fryar. And Irving will not be here tonight. He had an emergency, and so all is well, but he had an emergency, so he won't be joining us tonight. So I will be going solo, and we'll be engaging with you, our listeners. So again, this is Wideout's World. I'm your host, Michael Timpson, and we are former NFL wide receivers, and this is Wideout's World. And we give you our perspective from a wide receiver point of view. So we're going to get right into it. Let me change this scene so you'll see just me on the picture screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, okay, where is it? Okay. So now we're having some technical difficulties. So let me go back to the other shot. Okay, so we're there, but the other one's not working. So not sure why, but let's do this. There we go. So thank you for watching and listening, everyone. So we have a lot to cover. So we're going to jump right into it. With regards to some things that is happening in the NFL, because it's playoff time. It is playoff time. And so we always start off, when my partner in crime, Irving, is here, we start off with news of the week. And the news of the week right now, is obviously the head coaching search. So there's a lot of movement in the NFL. And so the biggest thing is what we're having right now is who's going where. And that's the $1 million question. Who's going where? So let's talk about who's going where in terms of the head coaches. Now, if you look at the head coaches here, there's a list of interesting candidates, and no one's at the top of the list like John Harbaugh. And we believe, quite frankly, that if once Harbaugh goes, everybody else will go. And so what we're going to try and do is talk about some of these head coaches and where they're going and some of the candidates. And the listeners, you are my guest host tonight. And so you chime in. I can see you're on the chat, and we'll get to your questions and we'll engage you that way for Wideout's World this evening. So talking about the head coaches, let me give you some names of some ones that you will I see you, Eddie. Good evening, Eddie. Nice to see you. Let me give you some names in terms of head coaches. John Harbaugh, like I said, is at the top of the list. Even though he was fired from Cleveland, Stefanski is on the list. And here's one from the past a little bit. Mike McCarthy is on the list. Kubiak, the Atlanta Hawks offensive coordinator, Kubiak, he is a candidate. Joe Brady, the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, his name is thrown out there. So those are some head coaches, former head coaches, if you will. Well, we got a couple of offensive coordinators. Let me give you some of the other candidates in terms of the head coaching. There's Todd Monken from the Baltimore Ravens. There's Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins. Cliff Kingsbury from the Commanders. Brian Dable, the ex-coach from the Giants. He is still floating around. And here's one that you probably didn't think about. His name is Nathan Skillhouse. He's the Rams. He's with the Rams office. He's the passing game coordinator with the Rams, and he's under the McVay tree. Here's some defensive coordinators I think you'll find interesting. Shula from the Rams, the defensive coordinator there. Mentor with the Chargers. Brian Flores with the Vikings, Weaver with the Dolphins, Vance Joseph with the Broncos, and Robert Saleh with the 49ers. So there's a list of coordinators that are up for positions being talked about as head coaches. But let's try to go down the list. Let's talk about the Dolphins first. I see you, Eddie, you think Harbaugh is going to Cleveland. Well, let me give you my pick here. I think Harbaugh is a good candidate to go to the Dolphins. Why? Who doesn't want to go to South Florida? And in addition to that, now I'll give you one that I ran across today. I hadn't thought about it, but this is interesting. Shula from the Rams. Dolphins, another Shula. I'm sure he's going to get an interview just that based on that alone. But again, he's the defensive coordinator with the Rams. Last name Shula. It's a good story, isn't it? I think so too. So we're talking about Shula to the Rams. Shula from the Rams and the Dolphins. So I really believe, because that Dolphin position didn't open up until Harbaugh was let go by the Ravens. And then all of a sudden they got rid of Mike McDaniels. So I kind of look at Harbaugh going to the Dolphins, to be honest with you. It's interesting to see what you think. So obviously, Eddie, you think Harbaugh is going to Cleveland. That's not a bad pick, but I just think I'm looking at the domino. The minute his name came up, there's a position open with the Dolphins. So I wouldn't be surprised if some things are already happening behind the scenes. Of course, no one's going to let in on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in Miami, just because the way things happened. So it'll be interesting to watch that. The Giants. What's the problem with the Giants? The Giants need a lot. They got an outstanding quarterback. They have young talent on defense. So with the Giants, who would you think would be a good pick with the Giants? I kind of like McCarthy. You know why I like McCarthy? Ex-Cowboy coach, gets a chance to put it back to the Cowboys. Defensive minded, not a bad pick going to the Giants. So I think also, let's go with the Falcons. The Falcons, I'm not so sure who's a good fit in the Falcons, though. They've tried some things. The last one didn't work out, obviously. I just think they're going to go offense. They got a young quarterback. They want to develop him. Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator, not a bad idea. I see you, Eddie, when you say he's from Harbaugh to Cleveland because he's from Ohio. Again, I just think the domino, how things happen, I'm not so sure. I see you, Richard. You said Irving, you knew he wouldn't show up today. He had an emergency, Richard, but I'm sure he'll talk to you when he gets back about your Buffalo Bills. Hats off to you. So we'll get into that. So the Falcons, kind of up in the air about the Falcons in terms of a coach. So the list is wide open there. It all depends on whether they want to go with a defensive-minded coach or an offensive-minded coach. And I'm thinking more offensive-minded because of the young quarterback, and they want to develop him, someone that can develop him. And right now, offense is hot. Offense is hot, and I just think that may be the flavor of the month. Cleveland, when you talk about Cleveland, it's tough to say. You said Harbaugh to Cleveland, Eddie. I don't know. Stefanski, was a defensive guy. Now you're saying Harbaugh, who's a defensive guy, going back there. I just think they're going to go the opposite direction. I think they'll go with a offense, a minded coach. Again, let's look at some of these offensive coordinators. Todd Monken with the Ravens. I haven't given up on Mike McDaniel. I like Mike McDaniels in Miami. It just seems as though it kind of ran its course. But you remember his first year or two, he was hot. He was the next best thing in making some things happen there. So I'm not counting McDaniel out, to be honest with you. Kingsbury with the Commanders, maybe different setting, may hold up something different. And this new guy, Nathan Shieldhaas with the Rams, keep an eye on him. He's under that McVay tree. Who knows there? If they're going to go with offense. Let's go Ravens. What do you think about the Ravens? Baltimore. I mean, if you're going to take on that team, you got to be willing to take on Lamar Jackson. And so that right there, you're going to be tied to what happens with him, with the Ravens. Now, I'm thinking that the Ravens, they're built by defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they stay on that side and still look to defense. I see you, Richard. You said McDaniels interviewed with the Browns today. You like McDaniels to the Eagles, and offensive coordinator Patullo gets the boot. Not bad. I mean, McDaniel is creative. I just don't think the head coach thing was for him, but that wouldn't be a bad fit at all. He has all the tools, and he's a quarterback genius. So that's pretty good. I hadn't thought about. I don't think Patullo's going to get the boot though. Yes, he took a lot of heat, but his coach stuck up for him. Now they may give him the ultimatum and say, "Hey, either he goes or you goes." And to your point, this last outing, it may, Patullo may be gone. But a lot of these coaches, they stick together. If that's his buddy, he may ride it out if he can another year. Saying, hey, this is his first year. He needs another year. He may play that card and say, hey, let's judge him after another year. But I can tell you one person that's not going to be there is A.J. Brown, and we'll get into that. The Raiders. Here's the interesting with the Raiders. What do you think? Now, they're talking about taking the quarterback from Indiana. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think he does go to the Raiders. But you're going to need someone to groom that quarterback. What do you think? A young Joe Brady, the Bills' offensive coordinator? I know you don't want to hear that, Richard, but you may lose your coordinator. Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel, the Raiders? Because whoever's going to be there, they're going to have an offensive mindset. Not only that, I think Brady's going to be a little bit more involved right now. I really do. So I just think that they're going to go heavy on offense and someone that can develop that quarterback. And so when I talk about developing the quarterback, McDaniels, the young guy from the Rams, Shieldhouse, and my other pick is Joe Brady with the Bills, to try and develop whoever they select number one in terms of the quarterback. So I can see that. But they've talked about Joe Brady, the Bills' offensive coordinator, for the last couple of years or so. So he may get a serious look. The Titans. What do you think about the Titans? I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if they have the pieces. The young quarterback Ward, he's in a similar situation. He needs some tutelage. So they're going to start off again. Again, these quarterbacks and head coaches are tied together a lot. So are they going to go with an offensive-minded coach? Perhaps. And last but not least, the Cardinals. The Cardinals is a hot mess. I just think they need to retool the whole thing. They don't have anything defensively. Offensively, are they going to move on from Kyler Murray and then look to upgrade in the draft or via free agency? That's going to be interesting with the Cardinals. But, you can't I don't know what the Cardinals have been doing. I wasn't a big Murray fan before. So he has a huge cap number to hit. So I believe that they'll move on from him. So those are the a lot of the candidates. Those are the teams. I just don't know. So Richard, you talked about Dable. Joe Brady, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of Dable. I just think that he may be better suited to be a coordinator as opposed to a head coach. He did some things, a year or so before, but he hasn't proven himself to me. So I'm not so sure about him getting a head coaching position. He may go in as a coordinator somewhere. I'm interested, the Kubiak, offensive coordinator from the Atlanta Hawks. Falcons, excuse me. The Falcons, Kubiak. And so I'm interested to see what happens with him. Or it's the Seahawks. I'm talking about Kubiak. Seahawks, I'm sorry. I said the Hawks. I was thinking Atlanta. But Kubiak is with the Seahawks. He's done a great job there. A lot of times when you have the production that they've had, that's when that offensive coordinator comes up. So he'll get a look as well. So those are the head coaches, and there's offensive coordinators looking at these positions. But again, I'll end this with this. I believe the domino effect will happen once Harbaugh goes, because I think a lot of people, at least 4 teams, are real high on Harbaugh. So I think once he goes, then you'll see a domino effect with the rest of them. And then let's not forget, we have these teams that are still in the playoffs. You're going to have some people look at those coordinators once they get bounced out, if they do get bounced out. So that's our list with regards to the coaching carousel. So let's talk about I know the rest of the news, we're going to get to that, because I know the news that's on everyone's mind is the blow up between with the Eagles, the big blow up on the sideline with A.J. Brown and his coach. So we're going to dive into that, but let me get to the list of our wideouts, because we normally do three of our top wideouts for over the wild card weekend. So let's go through them. I will say I had a gentleman, Romeo Doubs, as my number 3, third-year receiver out of Nevada with Green Bay, playing against Chicago. He had 8 receptions for 124 yards, 1 TD. He had a long of 34 yards. Here's the thing with Romeo Doubs. He shows up in the big games. He's done that throughout the season. He was the go-to guy when Watson was out, and he came up big again. Just wasn't enough. They put him in trips a lot this game against Chicago, and he was eating them alive. And a lot of that's based on leverage, because when you're in the slot and then there's no one outside and the slot guy, he's inside, you break into the corner, you have all that field. So that DB is going to play you heads up, and when you break to the corner, you have all of that field, particularly if there's no other receiver on the outside. So they put him a lot in trips, and he ran a corner out for a touchdown, and he had another catch similar to that. So Romeo Doubs is my number 3. My number 2 is Demarcus Robinson from the San Francisco 49ers, receiver out of Florida. Now, he's been in the league 8-9 years or so, 6'1", 202 pounds. He had 1 touchdown, 6 receptions for 111 yards, 1 long one of 61 yards. I hadn't heard of him. I hadn't heard of him. I know they traded for him, and he was supposed to filling in for Pearsall, who was out. And he did fill in very well, catching 6 balls for 111 yards, and the touchdown. But on the year, he's only had 22 receptions for 276 yards. And the first TD was here in the playoffs. So no better time to get a touchdown than in the playoffs. So Demarcus Robinson is my number 2 for San Francisco. And my number 1 was Jalen Coker. Here's the interesting thing about him, as I looked him up. He's a second-year wide receiver out of Holy Cross. When was the last time Holy Cross put someone in the NFL? I'm going to look that up, because I'm not so sure who's in the league from Holy Cross currently. But he's a second-year receiver. This is his second season out of Holy Cross. Number 18, wide receiver, 6'3", 213 pounds. Not a flashy receiver, but productive. Particularly, again, he was in the slot. He made a living on the Rams in the slot. He had 9 receptions for 134 yards. The great thing about him is, he came up with a big game, when it counted. He showed up. He has 33 receptions on the season for 394 yards and 3 TDs. So, he's making it count when he has to make it count. And so my hat's off to Jalen Coker from Carolina Panthers. He got the job done. So your list, any top receivers that you guys got, put it in the chat and I'll shout it out and we'll talk about it a little bit. But those are the 3 top receivers from the wild card weekend. And I'm sure the receivers will continue to do well with that. But I was really surprised with the Coker guy, because I hadn't heard much about him. I heard about the rookie from Carolina. But when they needed some plays, this guy stepped up and made some plays for Carolina and kept them in the game and gave them a shot at the end to win it. So let's jump right into the next one, is our games of this past weekend. If you're like me, you were glued to the set. This is a great weekend for football. This was a great weekend for football. Here's the thing. Let's jump right into the 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. That one there was very interesting. Here's a question I have. Why are people saying that it was an upset? The fact that the 49ers beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So help me out in the chat here. Why are people saying it's an upset? I mean, I gave the 49ers a good chance to win. So I'm not sure why, a lot of people are saying that it was an upset. Not at all. I didn't see it as an upset. The 49ers are very capable, particularly the fact that they had, the MCM, McCaffrey, that in itself, Brock Purdy had been playing decent, so they had a shot. Philly was up and down. Yes, they were home, but really, it was not an upset at all. Now, here's the thing. Both teams, they were intent on running the ball and not pressuring their quarterbacks. They didn't want to put the game in the hands of the quarterback. But then when you had Philly, you talk about they were at the big opening play to start the game. But, here's the thing. One-on-one, the Philly receivers, because here's what San Francisco did. San Francisco went blitz zero by San Francisco the whole time. They dared Philly to throw the ball and beat them in the air. They dared them, But see, even though the 49ers, Richard, didn't have their key players, they still made a game out of it, and they won the game. So that's why I say I don't understand the upset. Yeah, they didn't have their key set, but a lot of people play at this time of the year without their key players. But they had enough of the pieces in place, and particularly as long as you got McCaffrey, you got a shot. You got a shot. So here's the thing. You saw Kittle get injured with his Achilles. And, wish him the best. But these Achilles, man, these Achilles are just popping up. No pun intended. But it's a scary thing that they keep doing that. And like you just mentioned, the coaches are stepping up and plugging in. So that's what I'm saying. When you talk about key injuries, if you can coach and you got some backups that are quality backups, you can still make things happen. So here's the thing. When you talk about the game as it went on, there was no pressure. And like I said, the quarterbacks, both teams were intent on not putting pressure on the quarterbacks. And like I said, when Robinson opened up the play with that big play, we go back to what was the problem with the Eagles in the beginning. No lack of creativity, because San Francisco dared them to beat them throwing the ball, and the gamble played off. It paid off big time. Now, here's the thing. Let's look at the reverse pass that had for the touchdown for Jennings that he threw to McCaffrey. You think that's creativity? I think so. But see, here's the thing. Philly couldn't answer it. They couldn't answer it all. So then they take the lead, and then they go down on the 10-play drive, and then they get that touchdown catch by McCaffrey. But here's the thing. Now, A.J. Brown hadn't caught a pass since the first quarter. He hadn't caught a pass since the first quarter. And then in crucial times, he didn't come up with the catches at all. Here's another stat that I'll give you. The third quarter, guess what? The Philadelphia Eagles only had 36 yards. So do you think the sideline blow up, and let's talk about that a little bit. The sideline blow up between Sirianni and A.J. Brown when they were in each other's face after the long pass that A.J. didn't come up with. Do you think that's a spillover from how the whole year has gone? The frustration between what A.J. has said, the frustration from Sirianni as to what A.J. has said, the frustration from A.J. not getting the ball, the play calling, that type of thing. Do you think that was just a spillover? How many times do you think that happened in practice? Because I can guarantee that it has happened. They've had some blow-ups before. But this one obviously was on center stage. But, to AJ's point, it is vanilla. But when they throw you the ball and you have a chance to make some plays, which he had several, and he didn't come up with the catches. The one across the middle didn't come up with the catch. The last one to Dante Smith didn't come up with the catch. So there are some plays that they can make some plays, but they're not. Even when you say, it's a simple offense, but when the play is given to you, you got to make the plays. You got to make the plays. So here's the thing. He hadn't had a catch since the first quarter. Then he drops them. Here's the thing. Hurtston takes it to Goddard. He used the tight end because he got real comfortable with the tight end. Was there anybody else open besides the tight end? But that's why Goddard plays a big role with the Philadelphia Eagles. So now when you talk about what they're going to do in the offseason, do you think A.J. Brown's going to be there? Don't. I don't think he's going to be there at all. I think for lack of a better thing, you call it the diva. He's had the attitude the most of the year. And most guys in that position, you got to play with an attitude. But when it starts detracting from the team and it starts taking from them, I just think that, and to my partner Irving's credit, he said that A.J. Brown won't be there next year. So it's just a matter of time when they're going to move him and what they're going to get for him, trade him, and so on and so forth. But it has spilled over, and, everyone saw it. And no one's surprised, to be honest with you. No one's surprised at all. And, who taking the brunt of it is Hurts. He takes the brunt of it, and he takes it like a champion that he is. And he says it starts with him. He says it every time. He doesn't point at the coach. He doesn't talk about A.J. Brown and some of those antics. He puts it on him. What about the Philly defense? The 49ers drove the ball right down the field, So we got to give something to Philly as well. But if you think back to the beginning of the year, things were up and down. And that happens after a Super Bowl year, no matter what the team. Now, you get some streaks where you have like the Patriots, they're dominant for a while. But you get teams that have won the Super Bowl, sometimes you for the most part, you're going to have a down year. And that's okay. I think Sirianni is a great coach. I think that they'll get things together. And back to what you said, Richard, I like the fact if they do move on from Patullo, Mike McDaniel might be a very good fit. I like that. I like that a lot. So that was your upset, what people called it, the 49ers over the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think the Eagles had enough this year, and the 49ers, as inconsistent as they were and have been lately, they had enough to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, and so they're packing it in, going fishing for this year, the Philadelphia Eagles. Richard, you say A.J. Brown and prima donna, as long as he's playing. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. And people will pay the prima donnas and put up with it until they can't put up with it anymore. As long as they're productive and they're not taking away from the team, they will pay guys like that, and they will put up with it as long as they can until it starts detracting from the team. So, yes, he's going to get a look somewhere, and it'll run its course. I mean, think back to T.O., great receiver, Hall of Fame receiver. The antics that he brought with it. A lot of people didn't like it. Doggone good receiver. People paid him, and he came until he couldn't anymore. So there'll be a place for A.J. Brown. So that's our Philadelphia Eagles and our 49ers game. So let's move to your specialty, Richard. I'm glad you're happy to hear about the Bills. Bills win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 27-24. Now, I didn't know this, Richard, and the other listeners. That was Buffalo's first road playoff win in 33 years. Now that I didn't know. It's been that long that they have had a road playoff win. 33 years. That's a long time. But they got it done. That game, back and forth. Here's the thing I want to point out. The Iron Man at quarterback, Josh Allen. I mean, he showed up. I for one, did not pick the Bills to go to Jacksonville and win. I thought Jacksonville was on a hot streak. I thought that they had enough momentum to run the ball against the Bills, move the ball against the Bills, but they kept it close, and when it counted, they got it done. Jacksonville, short passing game, the second half. That was the answer that they didn't do in the first half. Parker Washington started getting open, getting some plays down the field. And here's the thing that was interesting that Buffalo's going to have to find an answer for. Jacksonville's number one run defense. Cook was held to 46 yards. They got to do a better job running the ball if they're going to advance, and particularly down the road. Now they're going to Denver. They're going to have to run the ball more effectively than they did. Now, the run game for Jacksonville, here's the thing that I was surprised with Jacksonville. They started out running the ball real well. They started running. B. Tootin, I don't know who Tootin is, but he had 3 carries for 51 yards, and then all of a sudden they stopped giving him the ball. They stopped giving him the ball, which I was like, why are you? And they didn't utilize Etienne at all. So I was surprised because the Bills' run defense is not that good. But Jacksonville stopped running the ball. So I'm not so sure that was a wise thing. But then the Bills took advantage of it. They got the push-tush for when they carried Allen for about 10 yards. They literally lifted him up and carried him for about 10 yards to the 1, and then they got a touchdown. And here's the thing. Josh Allen, they said that what was my notes here? They said they checked him for a concussion. He had a bleeding ear after he got hit, guy fell on his helmet and it came off. He had a bleeding ear and his hand. He ended up, though, to his credit, he ended up 28 of 35 for 273 yards. He had a passing touchdown and he had 2 rushing TDs. So when you talk about an Iron Man willing the rest of his team to do well and to win, he did it. He did it. So, and that's no surprise as much as people talk about him being a candidate for the MVP. I don't think he's going to get it, but I'm just saying early on this year, remember they were talking about him as the MVP candidate, and he's playing that well. But he shows up and he puts it all on the line. And you got to love that about a quarterback. He puts it all on the line every single game. Halftime, the score was 10-7 halftime. It was 10-7. So this was a very, very, very tight game. And, you got secondaries that are suspect. So that's why I'm not surprised that the Bills were able to throw the ball. Likewise, I wasn't surprised that Jacksonville with Washington was able to get some plays down the field because their pass defense the secondary, is a little suspect. But again, they held out. They did what they needed to do. So congratulations to the Bills. They're going up to Denver. And we'll see. We'll see. You'll see. And they'll show up against the false narrative against the Bills. They have a top five D. No. They played well enough. They look very good. They look good enough that day. And so that's all that counts. So they'll go up against the Broncos, and we'll see. We'll see. But hats off to the Buffalo Bills. That's not one that I picked. I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars. And unfortunately, Jacksonville came up short. So Duval is going to have to wait until next year. All right. So now here's another barn burner that we had. The Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. That was another good game, So, when I looked at that game, I was like, okay, I picked Chicago. I didn't think that Green Bay had a shot at all. I just thought that with Love coming back after being off a couple games, he's going to be a little rusty. I'm thinking at home, Chicago's filling themselves. You got a quarterback that's a gunslinger. I just really thought that that's how it was going to be honest with you. But Green Bay comes out 21-3 at halftime. I was like, oh gosh, I was talking to my brother. I was like, oh, I got a bad pick. I picked the wrong team. 21-3 at halftime, Green Bay was leading. Now, here's my problem. 21-3. You think the game's, it's a good chance you're going to win this game. Chicago went into halftime with an 18-point hole. They were down 18 points. And now they've set all these records for coming back in this game. But here's the thing. It was only 21-6 in the fourth quarter. So, it took a lot for them to come back. But they did it. They did it. Caleb Williams, man, wow. The Bears quarterback, postseason record, 361 passing yards. So he's established a Bears record with that. And then if you look at the game winner, the pump fake on the receiver screen, and he threw it to DJ Moore, the game winner was 1 minute and 43 seconds left. Let's go back to Chicago's run game. D. Swift, he came up big when it needed to be, So the Bears were very shaky the first half. The first half, they, to me, seemed to be a young team in the playoffs, new coach, and not really, understanding the gravity of it all. But they settled in. In the beginning, though, it just looked like it was just the moment was too big for them. But they settled in. Give credit to the coaches and their resolve and calming everybody down. It made Green Bay panic a little bit. I mean, they put Josh Jacobs in the back to return kicks. They were desperate. Their starting tailback, he's returning kicks now. Then he fumbled one. So, hats off to Caleb Williams, though. There's a reason this guy won the Heisman Trophy. I've been a fan just because he's a gunslinger. He reminds me of Brett Favre, just throwing the ball, different positions, different angles, different spots. I mean, and he's willing to do it. He'll take a chance. It may burn you, but he seems obviously he's going to hit more of them than he's not. He came to play, and they took that 18-point deficit and came back and won that game. Now, here's what worried me. Do you remember when he was coming off the field and he was just coming off the field? He twisted his ankle. And here's the interesting part about that. No one came to check on him as he went to the sideline. I mean, he limped to the sideline. And then as he was going to the bench, no one checked on him. I thought that was interesting. Now, have they seen that before? It's just, that's just Caleb being Caleb. I don't know. But nobody checked on him. And guess what? He walked it off or ran it off, but he came back out and he played, and they won that ball game. But tough, And so Chicago is going to be interesting to watch Chicago throughout the playoffs. They're going to be very interesting to watch. The Rams got to go in there. We're going to get to those previews. The Rams got to go into Chicago. Warm weather team. It's going to be in the teens. It may dip under. Maybe negative. That's going to be interesting. We'll talk about that one. So talking about the Rams at Carolina. Here's another one. I'm thinking, okay, Carolina backed into the playoffs. They're going to back out. As a matter of fact, I said it on the show. I said they're going to back right out because they backed in. But doggone it, Carolina put up a fight. They had the fourth quarter lead changes was a ton, but it was back and forth. I mean, the Rams were expected to blow Carolina out. They were supposed to just blow them out, and they didn't. But see, here's the thing. Keep in mind, LA had penalties. They had 9 penalties for 83 yards. Both of the run games were not popping at all. They just weren't. But guess what? When you run a zone defense against Stafford, you're going to get beat. You go zone defense by Carolina, ran a zone defense, and Stafford just picked it apart, 304 yards. And he only went to Devontae Adams only once in the first half. Just one time. But when it counted, guess what? He found Puka Nacua when it counted. Puka Nacua ended up with 10 receptions for 111 yards. That's his average. He's going to give you 10 catches, get you over 100 yards. He had 2 TDs. But, at that last point when the score, when the Panthers took the lead 31-27, Man, Stafford went 6 of 7. It was 2 minutes and 38 seconds left. He took him down the field on the 71 yards. Took him straight down the field and scored and took the lead and left him with, and at 38 seconds, that's how much they bled the clock. We started out at 2:38. They bled the clock. They left it with 38 seconds left. He threw to Parkinson, the tight end, and scored the go-ahead touchdown. So, as much as Stafford, up and down, I'm still concerned about them moving forward. The Rams, that is, their special teams. They got the block punt by Carolina. The punter, for me, it seemed he just didn't extend his leg. He extended his leg, he probably got a rough in the kicker. They blocked the kick. And the Rams all year has had problems with their special teams. I mean, they fired the guy because they had problems with the special team. So it's going to be interesting down the road, particularly next week. The Rams got to go to the Bears. The Bears are very scary. I agree with you, Richard. They're scary. So the Rams going to the Bears. But remember, like myself and a lot of others, they're picking the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. They're picking the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So I don't know if things are going to change next week, but that's going to be a really good game. And I'll give you the preview on that as we get down the road here. So the last game, a playoff game, Chargers at the Pats. All right. Do you recall this game was 3-3 at halftime? It was 3-3. The Patriots came and won this by just being smart with the football, not trying to do anything crazy. Yeah, they had a couple of turnovers. We were going to expect that, but they weren't taking chances. They were very methodical in their approach and not trying to put too much on the young quarterback. The Patriots, this is their first postseason win since 2019. Since 2019, they haven't been first postseason win. The Patriots defense, this was the difference maker. You saw the Patriots defense get up. They sacked Hebert 6 times. Justin Hebert. 6 times they sacked him. When you sack a quarterback 6 times, it's awful difficult to win the game. Now, I say that. At the same time, the Chargers sacked Derek May 5 times. So it's difficult, though, when you're getting sacked that many times, particularly because now you're taking hits. It all depends on how those hits are. But when you looked at the Chargers defense, the Patriots defense, the defensive lineman Williams, 2 sacks. Calavian Chason, 2 sacks, the linebacker. And 2 of them were strip sacks. So that defense rose up and showed up because this was a defensive battle. It wasn't a lot of it early on. It was obvious this was not going to be a lot of scoring, and it wasn't. But here's the problem with the scoring, and here's probably why it wasn't a lot of scoring. Guess what? L.A. 1 of 10 on third downs. They just couldn't sustain a drive. 1 of 10 attempts to keep the chains moving on third down, and they just couldn't do it. L.A. couldn't do it at all. So here's the thing. The Patriots, run game, what happened to it? Drake May was the leading rusher with 66 yards for both teams on 10 carries. Drake May was the leading rusher. Before half, he had that 37-yard scramble that set up 3 points. But, that was just before the half. And then when I looked at the stats, why did L.A. leave the field going into halftime with 3 timeouts? What are you keeping them for? They're not transferable. So I'm not sure why they had 3 timeouts. So, there's some things throughout the game. I was like, okay, what are they doing? So here's the other thing too that they had. The May fumble in the third quarter. That was obvious to me. He was trying to do too much. And this is after he had a good run option. I mean, he was like an option quarterback from back in the day with Oklahoma. He ran for a first down. But again, moving forward with New England, And they'll get the winner tonight out of the Texans and the Steelers. But their run game, Stevenson, 53 yards. Henderson, 27 yards. And again, the leading rusher was Drake May. The Chargers didn't have their running back, Omarion Hampton. He had 1 carry and he left the game. And I think that really hurt them. They couldn't do play action. There was no threat in the play action with the other running back. And Herbert just seemed out of rhythm. He couldn't connect with the long ball, which I don't understand why they kept going for the long ball as opposed to just getting some quick game so he could get into some type of rhythm. And the Patriots lit him up. They lit him up. And he had that look on him like the old boxer, Roberto Duran. He said, no mas, no mas. So up next, the Texans or the Steelers, the Patriots will play them at home. So we'll be interested to see that. I got a prediction for that one because I think, I'll save that one. So those are the games that we had. So we had a great weekend of football if you're a serious football fan, which I know you are. Let me give you the preview of tonight's game. And before I get into the divisional games, give you a preview of that as we get close to the top of the hour of this game tonight. Houston at Pittsburgh, Monday night. Now, it's a little cold there, a little chilly. Now, Houston's a dome team. Can they go outside and play well? Are they going to mental hurdle that they have to get over going from a dome team to outside? That'll be interesting to see. Now, here's my prediction. With regards to the matchups, DK Metcalf is coming back after 2 games. I believe that the Texans cornerback Derek Stingley can shut him down all by himself. Now, if they're able to do that, Texans with that number 1 ranked defense, they're going to move another person in the box and come after the quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to get hit tonight. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on him. And if you think back to their offense has been very inconsistent, Pittsburgh, throughout the year. You know? But if Houston if they can weather the weather, no pun intended, I think they'll win this by 10 points if they can weather the weather. If not, it may come down to field goals. But Pittsburgh's run game has been pretty much non-existent. It has been. And, Houston's run game, if they get it going, it can go. But that hasn't been consistent either. So I just think it's going to come down to making some plays. But Houston, man, I just don't think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to move the ball. And so I just think Houston has enough that they can get some things done. And I like their quarterback. I like Stroud, and not only that, that defense hunts. And what's the old saying? They say defense travels. That defense travels. So I know they're going to be ready to go. I just think the road is over for Pittsburgh at this point. I'm taking Houston. All right. So let's go to the divisional rounds as we come to the top of the hour and wrap this up so we can get ready for Monday Night Football. All right. So now, let's give you the first game. And I want your prediction, guys, on this one. 49ers at the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks has been off. It could go both ways when a team's rested. They could be rusty, or they could get their pop back. One of the two. Which is it going to be? Now, let's think back. When you think back to week 1, the 49ers won that game 17-13. Sam Darnold struggled in that game. He struggled in that game. Week 18, they lost it 13-3. Seahawks won 13-3. They shut the 49ers down. They shut them completely down. Are you going to get a repeat of that? It's a good chance that you will. Because I think, they're rested. They're the home favorite. The 49ers only could muster 3 points. That's all they could muster was 3 points. So I'm really picking the Seahawks to win that one. I'm picking the Seahawks to win. I love the 49ers. I actually love the 49ers. You know, I just don't think that they have enough, and they will have enough. Now, if Darnold goes out there, I mean, that's always an if. But if Darnold doesn't throw the ball, turn over the football, I just think they'll win this. I think they'll win this by 10 points at home. And the fact that they held them to 3 points last time they played them just a few weeks ago, I'm taking the Seahawks all day and twice on Sunday. All right, so we will Seahawks. We agree on Seahawks, huh, Eddie? I like that too. We'll go with the Seahawks on that one. All right, Richards Bills and the Denver Broncos. Now, the Bills got punched in the mouth. It's a physical game, particularly for their quarterback. Okay, can Josh Allen recover? Because right now he's sitting in the cold whirlpool. Right now, he has ice packs on. Can they recover in time to be effective against the Broncos in Mile High Stadium? That defense, the run defense against the Broncos, are they overrated? Some have said they're overrated. We'll find out, won't we? Bo Nix, second year, is he for real? Because for a while they were talking about him, and as well as he had been playing, that he was in the talk very early on about MVP. But hey, is he going to show up? The Bills have been there. They know what this looks like. They know what playoffs looks like. This young guy, Bo Nix, doesn't. Now, here's what they do have. Let's talk about Patrick Surtain shutting down the whole side of the field. Much like I talked about earlier. Now, him doing that, they can bring that safety down and help with the run defense for Cook. Cook has to run the ball. If Cook can't run the ball, they don't have a shot. And so that's what concerns me about Buffalo going in there to run the ball. Are they going to be able to run the ball? Or is Cook going to be able to run the ball effectively, specifically between the tackles? So Surtain shutting down part of the field. And here's the thing, Richard, your receivers, none of them scare anyone. Shakir is not a big play receiver. He's effective. He does well. But the home run hitter, now Keon Coleman came back last week. He had a big catch, and maybe they can get some more production out of him. But I don't know where he is mentally from game to game. I think you would agree with that. But, that's what concerns me about them passing the ball, because if they won't throw the Surtain side, so they need to take advantage of the other side. So we'll see. But they're going to have to do a better job running the football if they're going to be effective against the Broncos. Okay? So Bo Nix versus Allen. I'm taking Allen. Well, Eddie, I agree with you, but Allen doesn't play defense. And I just think that the Broncos, if they put everything together, and Bo Nix is young. He's young, and he's a lot like Caleb Williams. Like, he doesn't know any better, and he's gonna throw it. And he try some things that he, in some cases, probably shouldn't. So I like Allen too. I don't know about this one though, to be honest with you. I'm gonna come back to this one in a second. I'm gonna do the other one. I'm gonna do the other games and come back to this one, and then I'll give you my prediction on that one. I'm gonna come back to that one. We'll do the Pats last, that one, because we don't know who they're gonna play. So we'll cover that one in a second. Let's go Rams at the Bears. Here's the thing with the Bears. Their defense. Now, they played well the other night, but it's still the same old defense. Now, you're talking about a high-powered offense, but we're talking weather. Now, obviously, it's going to be cold. How are the Rams going to deal with that? Right now, the forecast is 16 degrees, with the wind chill supposed to be -8. And here's what someone said, and I think it's very appropriate, particularly my 2 years in Chicago. I've heard this before. Chicago The Bears are built for winter. So they start running that ball and start banging on the Rams. Because, you think Rams, you think L.A., Los Angeles, you think, that kind of lifestyle. Excuse me. Out in L.A., pretty boys, movies and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to be passing that ball a lot. Not in that wind and the cold. It's a different animal. That ball is like a rock. So whoever has the run game clicking, I think they stand a chance to come out on top. But I'm going to go with the Bears because I think they're built for the winter. I think the defense can stop the Rams enough to win that game at home. So I'm going to go with the Bears on that one. What did you say, Rich? You said these games are too big for these teams that are here, top 5D. Okay. Well, for these young guys, you might be right. You might be right that they're too big. And but you know what I'm thinking with Sean Payton as his coach, although he doesn't go out there and play, he can get him mentally prepared for a big game like this. So I'm thinking that's somewhat of an advantage because he does good with the quarterbacks. So he has the right guy coaching him and giving him some instruction. So I don't know, but I'm gonna go with the Bears with this one. Let's go through the Pats and Pittsburgh. Now, I'm gonna go with Pats. If they play Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh wins and the Patriots play Pittsburgh, I'm gonna go with the Pats. Now, here's the interesting. If Houston wins, I believe Houston will beat the Pats. I just think it's a better matchup. And particularly defensively, because if they go into Pittsburgh, who's to say they can't go into Foxborough and win? So or the Patriots will have to go on the road to Houston. I don't know that. I got to go look at that again and look at the seeds. But why not? Why not? So that's where I am with the Pats based on who's going to win. So let me go back to your Broncos and Bills. Eddie, you said you have to flip a coin on that one. Man, the Broncos and the Bills, after last week, man, I like the Bills. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go with the Bills because I just think, too, like you and Richard had mentioned, the Bills, having been there, done that, the Broncos, I think the Bills will throw enough in there that the Broncos may kind of spaz out a little bit. So I'm going to give the edge to the Bills. I'm hesitant, but I'm going to go with it because of what I saw last week with the quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Bills in Mile High making a statement there. So we'll see. We'll see. But we'll see. All right. So to recap, Seahawks, I got the Seahawks over the 49ers. I got the Bills over the Broncos. I got the Pats over Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh were to win. I got Houston over the Pats if Houston wins tonight. And I got the Bears winning at home against the LA Rams. Too cold. You're going too far. And I just don't think that the Rams can sustain that cold weather. Because you know what? I remember being in Chicago for the 2 years that I was there, how cold it was. When we had some of these cold games, the frozen field is a reality. Even though when they have the heaters on up under there, it still gets cold enough that thing becomes almost like brick when you fall on it, So I think all of those things, but hey, they're professional athletes. They'll make the adjustments. But I just don't think that it's going to be enough to overcome the Bears. And the fact that people are believing. They're talking about these Bears, reaching the Super Bowl. And when you're there, the 85 Bears, that's a constant reminder. People throw that to you. When I was there with the Bears, they throw it all the time. They're just talking about the Bears, the 85 Bears. So they're hanging that over their heads, and they're looking at this team, and Caleb is giving them hope, and the coach is giving them hope. And so as we close, speaking of the coach from Chicago, what do you think? Does he have to hug LaFleur from the Green Bay Packers? He said he doesn't like him. So he shook his hand and kept it moving. I don't have a problem with that. Do you guys have a problem with that? You don't have to sit there and embrace and sing Kumbaya. You know, he's the opponent. He shook his hand. He was professional. You know, I don't understand, you know, what the big, and I don't think the coaches are making a big deal of it. I think it's more the media. You know, it's just something to talk about. But I can care less. You know, the game is played between the lines, not with the coaches. And a good rivalry is good stuff. So, you know, we'll see. But that's a wrap. Our hour has gone very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you watching. And same time, same channel. My partner in crime, Irving Fryar, will be back. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, he had an emergency that he had to take care of. And so I was solo. But I wasn't solo because I had you guys, and appreciate your interaction. It was a blast. Appreciate you and everything. I see you added your grandson's a sophomore at Penn State. All right, we are. So thanks again for watching. Enjoy tonight's game. Get your popcorn ready. Should be a good one. We'll see you next time on Wideouts World. I'm your host, Michael Timpson. Be blessed. Take care.
This has been Wideouts World.
Touchdown.
The legends, Irving Fryar and Michael Timpson. Are you freaking kidding me? If it's football talk you're looking for, I think we've got you covered. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on YouTube at Wideouts World. See you next time.
Let's go! Let's go! Go! Go!